Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the June 24th River Falls City Council meeting. First thing we'll do is stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Amy, can we have a roll call, please?
Bierstead,
Here.
Bjork,
Here.
Carroll,
Here.
Downing,
Here.
Morset,
Here.
Odine, here, Page.
Here.
Okay, next our approval of minutes from the June 2nd special meeting minutes.
I so move.
And the June 10th workshop and meeting minutes.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, first and second on the minutes. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next we have approval of the bills with Mr. Bjork.
Mayor and council, I'd like to ask for the approval of the bills of $977,514.21.
Second.
First and second on the bills. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're going to change it up a little bit tonight. We're going to begin with the public hearing for the annual liquor and beer licenses, and then we'll have everything else after that. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to close the council hearing and open up the public hearing. And then if there's any questions on the annual liquor license, beer license renewals, hearing, and each one will be hearing and disposition for each liquor class, and request for a combination Class A liquor and Class A beer license for that girl Brie. Is there anybody has any questions on this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and open up the council hearing. And I'll turn it over to Clerk White, and she will do a roll call of the agents.
Bob and Steve Store 4 and 6. Bo Johns. Divine. That Girl Brie. River Falls Baseball Council. And now I'd like to ask Divine and That Girl Brie to step forward to the podium for a couple questions from Councilmember Morset.
Thanks for coming in tonight. I ask every agent 3 questions, the same 3 questions, whether you're off sale or on sale or a bar operation or a liquor store. Do you understand the role of an agent?
Yes.
You can answer together, yeah. Do you understand, do you possess a responsible server's certificate?
Yes.
Do you understand that if an alcohol-related violation occurs, even if you're not there, it's your responsibility?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Okay, next move on to motion 1. This will grant renewals for the Class A beer licenses and Class A cider only licenses, contingent that all licensing requirements are met at the time of the insurance, or at the time of the issuance. And this will be for, where am I?
You need this?
Oh, yep, sorry, I didn't have my, not on there. These are for both the Bob and Steve Store number 4 and number 5. Number 6.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we grant renewals for the Class A beer licenses and Class A cider only licenses, contingent that all licensing requirements are met at the time of issuance for Bob and Steve Store number 4, Paulson Road, and Bob and Steve Store number 6 on North Main Street.
Thanks, I said
Second.
5 things. Okay, first and second, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to motion 2. This will grant renewals for the combination Class A liquor and Class A beer licenses, contingent that all licensing requirements are met at the time of issuance. This motion will grant the license to the following applicants: Divine Liquors LLC, Powers Flowers Gifts and Crafts LLC, doing business as Bo Johns. Sorry about that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, first and second. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion 3 grants renewals for the Class B liquor or Class B beer licenses, contingent that all licensing requirements are met at the time of issuance, and this would be for the River Falls Baseball Council. And I'll take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we grant the Class B beer license, I'm sorry, am I on the right spot? Yeah, Class B beer license for the River Falls Baseball Council.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next would be grant renewal of the Class C wine licenses. Contingent that all licensing requirements are met at the time of issuance, and this would be for the River Falls Baseball Council also.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we grant the Class C wine license for the Baseball Association.
Second.
First and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, last one is grant, deny, or modify the request for issuance of a combination Class A liquor and Class A beer license, contingent that all licensing requirements are met at the time of issuance, and this will be for that girl Brie. I'll take a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we grant renewal of the Class C wine licenses contingent that all licensing requirements are met at the time of issuance for that girl, Brie.
Second.
First and a second. Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
That wasn't the correct motion.
No. So we need a motion for Class A liquor and Class A beer license.
Yes, and it's not a renewal.
It's
new.
Yeah.
Yep, that's new.
So I will move that we grant the request for issuance of a combination Class A liquor and Class A beer license contingent on all licensing requirements met for that girl Brie.
Second.
Okay. So we have the correct motion. Questions or comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, move on to public comments. If there's anybody on it that has anything to say, now would be the time to come on up. And if you do, remember to sign your name and your address, and everybody's got 2 minutes.
Usually we lose all the audience by this time. Sorry about that. Hi, I'm William Hanson, N8723, 1025th Street, River Falls. And I drive by the back of your house going home most of the time. Tonight I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about child safety. There are 2 developments in progress north of Powell Avenue near East Woodridge and North Winter Street. They are the 24-lot Preserve Edition and the 85 potential units of the Rolling Hills Edition. The Preserve Edition proposes to meet their development requirements for parks, playgrounds, recreation, and open space by construction of an enhanced pedestrian crossing running south across Powell Avenue to Collin Park. What is an enhanced pedestrian crossing? Who will decide if the developer's construction meets the city safety expectations? Powell Avenue often carries over as many as 2,800 vehicles per day. Powell Avenue's posted speed limit is 40 miles per hour. The Rolling Hills development is expected to raise the Powell Avenue traffic count by another 30% to nearly 3,600 vehicles per day. Please consider carefully the safety requirements you establish for any pedestrian path crossing Powell Avenue. As you move ahead, use the same thoughtful, enhanced safety considerations you would use if a child was killed crossing Powell Avenue because of inadequate planning or lack of city oversight. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Meyer, a longtime resident of River Falls. I got a card in the mail about relocating the community garden to the Sanctus Park. We're here today because this is the first time that we've heard of this and would like more information, and then we can express our concerns. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Matthew Utes, 533 Marcella Court, and I like following him because I as well have kind of an issue with DeSanctis Park. I received the same postcard in the mail, and I am greatly opposed of moving Grow to Share over to that area of DeSanctis Park. I think you're all in receipt of my email, as well as I left copies of it with the park board. That area of DeSanctis Park, back 2016, 2017, the city tried to do a land swap, putting residential housing back there. And now since 2023, it has not been mowed the same as the rest of the parks in River Falls. So I just wanted to come in personally, bring this to the council's attention. And again, kind of reiterate, we would appreciate that portion of the park being mowed like the rest of the park, as well as complete opposition against moving Grow to Share from Hoffman over to DeSanctis. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary McNamara, and my husband and I, Thomas, live at 92A West Woodridge Drive in River Falls here, and I wanted to speak about the topic that the first gentleman spoke about, the possible proposed development site off of Powell and near Winter. And my neighbor, who's been a longtime resident on Woodridge, on the far north end, has concerns about water runoff and flooding. And apparently, we've only been there 3 years, but apparently neighbors who butt right next to that proposed field area know very well about the flooding issues during like water runoff time or heavy rain, or I should say snow melt, heavy rains. Also, she was unable to attend tonight, but has some concerns about if homes are developed in that area, the streets that they would be putting into that area so that the homes could access, would it be totally wide enough to allow for emergency vehicles, and taking into consideration that if cars are also parked on both sides of the street at the same time, to still allow for, adequate access for, all of the emergency vehicles. And I have some concerns too about the airflow. Right now, it's a field, so when, the corn is the highest, then, but anyway, with the ridge, the Wood Ridge, obviously the name, the ridge is quite high on pretty much the entire east side, the north side, and much of, I would say, at least half of the west side, whereby then we are able to get good airflow from the south, where that proposed development area is located, and then also from like the southwest area of the Woodridge Drive.
15 seconds.
And so concerns about, adequate ventilation, and good airflow that we're used to now, that the, developed homes in there may not allow for. And I guess I maybe had one other issue, but
Time.
Thank you.
Benjamin Fox, 2529 Powell, Powell. The community gardens in this community used to actually be on the site when it was still the, I think, Ingram Center. I don't remember it well. But as a kid from a farming lineage, I do believe producing food is an important part of who we are. And so when I see a community garden, that allows an opportunity to people in rentals or anything else to actually produce food that they'll eat and nourish themselves. And as you're doing physical work, you will actually do mental work as well. It allows you to communicate ideas and everything else as a community. I have not always liked the one out in Hoffman Park. I think that that opportunity is sometimes squandered by the group out there, that they don't properly maintain their facilities at what they should be. But I do think it's important that the opportunity exists. I am glad that you're moving it out to the DeSanctis area. I do find it unfortunate that the school forest or school farm is out there. and that the university has facilities for growing food also. And so I do think it's important that we reduce the silos that we've built in our lives to work across groups, not have to worry about being just individuals in silos. And so I thank you for finally transitioning them out of Hoffman Park. And I hope that the new space or whatever they do on the west side is improved. So with that, I thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dana Linscott. I represent the River Falls Alliance for the Homeless. It's composed of over 400 local individuals that try to fill the gap that increasing homelessness in River Falls is creating. Our neighbor's place can't begin to handle the increase. Their funding's dropping, the problem's growing. Yet, when someone's encountered by River Falls Police Department that's homeless, they're handed an envelope which is all the resources that are available to them to get out of homelessness, to find emergency shelter, to get food, medical care, whatever they immediately need. And because of directions from the mayor, the city police force, Chief Young, refuses to add us to that list of available resources. Our neighbor's place can't do it all. We already help, we're growing, and we'd like to be included in that, but only by Mayor Toland requesting it from Chief Young will it happen. It's cruel and unprofessional to not provide all the help that River Falls residents who become homeless need. And it's upon Mayor Toland's shoulders now to help do that. Thank you.
Anybody else has anything they'd like to say? Okay, we'll move in. Okay, sorry, we're gonna close the council. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have our city assessor we gotta turn on now. Oh, buckets. Oh. Sorry, we're gonna have a presentation tonight. Our city assessor here from Accurate Appraisal on market update for the city of River Falls. This is Dana Ramin. Yep, the city assessor. She's gonna provide a little presentation for what's going on.
Didn't know if my phonetic spelling was correct. Maybe not. Just gonna keep hovering over it until it disappears and I don't have to talk about it. There, maybe, no? Amy, oh,
There it goes.
there we go. No, that's fine. I was just like sliding it and moving all over the place and I was just clicking stuff and hoping it went away. Hi, everyone, I'm Dana. I was just gonna make it go away. Yeah, you're on it.
And from beginning. There you go.
Cool, cool, thanks. All right, so here today to talk about the interim market update or reassessment, reevaluation. Department of Revenue likes to call it an interim market update that's going on. I'm sure everybody has seen the cars driving around, Accurate cars. We're doing field work in the area all week long, right? So here today gives some education. I am Dana Ramin. You said the last name correct, so I do thank you. Nobody ever gets it right. It is what it is. I am your account coordinator, also your statutory assessor. So I will also be here for the Board of Review, hopefully for open book, which we have 2 days. Last year, 2024 in review, our last market update was 2021. So right now we are sitting at a 79% ratio. Last year was a maintenance year. We'll go through more of this. If we've got questions, we can field those at the end. So hold those. If you want to interrupt me, go for it. I'll get lost along the way anyway. 2024 was a maintenance year, which meant we did everything just rolled over from roll to roll. Example, and no changes were made to parcels unless there was a data change or physical change. Examples of a physical change: remodels, additions, removal of properties. Data change would be classification of changes from residential use to commercial use. Our field team visited 129 parcels last year. We checked on permits being pulled, parcels being flagged for visits from the prior year, parcels that we needed to clarify any changes that were made. This one's very long. I'm going to paraphrase as we go. You guys can read it as we go, right? Interim market update is a type of assessment that allows all properties within River Falls to be reevaluated based on the current market data available as of 1/1. Our goal is to be in line with the current market conditions to maintain equity, fairness, and accuracy across our role. This matters so our assessment ratio, when it falls below 90%, this signals that properties are no longer being assessed fairly. If this continues for 5 consecutive years, the state may mandate a full reassessment, which is both very time consuming, which reassessments are time consuming, but it's more time consuming for you guys, and then very costly. In summary, we just are really helping you guys stay in compliance with state guidelines. Your assessments will remain credible, relevant, and aligned with market trends. The plan for 2025, the interim market update, IMU, our timeline. Field work is going on right now. We started today. We're looking at any building permit that was pulled, any updates, any field work that is required to be looked at, any sketches to be made. They're here now. I believe we have 4 boots on ground right now. Notices will be mailed. I have the 26th. That may change to end of week. They'll be mailed. End of week could be Saturday, but they will be mailed end of week. Open book starts July 14th. We do have 2 days planned. So 14th, 15th, we will be here for 2 full days. Board of Review set September 10th. Frequently asked questions. What is market update? We just went through that. Why is it conducted? Again, will my taxes increase the same as my value? Most people know that's not how that works. I do have a really nice slide right after this one that will show how that works. This is how our taxes work with our assessment. We have estimated that our increase for River Falls should go up about 38%. So a home that was just about $175,000 last year in 2024, with the current mill rate, your taxes were just over $3,000 last year. This year, with our 38% increase with your assessment, same home as last year would now be assessed at just over $240,000. We are guesstimating that your mill rate would adjust down to 0.013 in 2025. Your taxes would go down just slightly.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I just want to point out to anybody viewing this at home, this is the city portion only.
Correct.
This is not related to
This has nothing to do
taxing authorities.
Correct. This has nothing to do with any type of referendums, if there is one, emergency services, just your assessed value on your home.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Another visual educational piece, right? Comparing apples to oranges, comparing your home. This is something everyone does. We want to compare what our house looks like to our neighbor's home when assessments come out, when tax bills come out. Just because your home on the outside may look like your neighbor's home on the outside, you have no idea what is being assessed on the inside. This is perfect example. Your attic may be finished, your neighbor's attic may be unfinished. Your basement may be unfinished, their basement may be finished. You may have only 2 bathrooms, your neighbor may have 3 bathrooms. You may have 4 bathrooms, your neighbor may only have 2 bathrooms. You have no idea what is going on the inside of your neighbor's home, just as they have no idea what's going on in your home. You have no idea if they have quartz countertops and you have laminate, you have no idea. So it's really difficult to compare home to home. That's why we have our sales analysis sheet that is online at accurateassessor.com. When your notice comes out, you will get a sheet that states how to create your appointment for open book. At that time, you can also go on our website, get the sales analysis sheet, look at what your neighbor's home is assessed at if you want to. Open book. Open book is a time to discuss your property value. Open book starts July 14th. Typical open book lasts 15 minutes. If you have more than one property, please make more than one appointment. It will be a busy time for us. 2 days worth, it's going to be busy. This is a time where a resident can share their recent appraisals, evidence of value, any recent sales. As an assessor, we will then share our sales analysis, which is out there for public view. The roll book will be available for view. We'll have it available for residents, and again, it's posted online. The open book process starts as soon as you receive your notice. And again, appointments are open as soon as you get your notice, and they are available on AccurateAssessor.com. And all you have to do is click appointment. Board of Review. Again, how to go to Board of Review. Be sure to speak to an assessor prior to objecting to your assessment. Set an appointment with the assessor. Talk to us first. Board of Review functions just like a court. It is required to evaluate using evidence-based facts. You have to use evidence. It is just like a court of law. Your representative must use factual evidence that your property is inequitably assessed. After speaking with the assessor to file for Board of Review, you must contact the lovely lady at the end of the table, Miss Amy, at least 48 hours before the hearing. And the burden of proof is solely on the taxpayer. The assessor's value is presumed correct by state of law until proven otherwise. And again, we have this AccurateAssessor.com to click appointment. That is for open book to speak with an assessor prior to that Board of Review. Intentional education, which we've done, Facebook posts, the FAQ, newsletters, all that good stuff. We're here for the board meeting again today. I know you guys have done lots of education. Any other questions? We have our info at Accurate Assessor. My information's out there. Our office phone number is here. And then any questions? I know there's going to be lots of questions. I look right at Scott.
Maybe not. Anybody got any questions?
I asked mine.
Yeah, I'll clarify. That is that's an illustrated example. That's not our exact mill rate, but that's similar to our full mill rate with the school district and everybody. The city's,
Oh, it is? Okay.
So city's mill rate is about 8 per thousand or 0.08. So the 18, the other $10 is school district and county. So just I don't want to give.
Thank you.
I don't want to give ourselves credit for a higher rate than we have, because we're in the lowest quarter of the entire state of Wisconsin, quartile for mill rates for the city only portion. I'd also just point out, I guess, would be fair to say that if you're looking at your assessment notice and you're trying to determine if that's a fair assessment of your property, it's not too difficult. And Wisconsin makes it pretty easy for residents to make a determination, because we're aiming for 100% of market as of January 1st. So many other states that I'm familiar with have all kinds of ratios and percentages based on if you over 55 or if you've been in the home for so many years or if you bought the house before 1972 or all kinds of crazy state laws. In Wisconsin, it's one of the more equitable states for assessment. It's just what would that property be worth on the market on January 1st, 2025. So if you look at your property assessment and you say, I would be willing to sell my house, that's a fair representation of the price as I understand it, plus or minus 10%, then you know that the assessor has done their job, because it's mass assessing, it's not appraisal. So it's not an individual valuation of your particular home. It's assessment of all the properties with similar characteristics across the entire community. So that's the best way you can, but you always have the opportunity in Wisconsin to do informal, which is the open book. That can be in person, over the phone. I think you
also do email as well.
You allow email, so you have the ability to talk directly to the assessor about your assessment. Any questions you have, It's not a court of law. You don't have to have a pile of evidence. You don't need an attorney. You can just talk to the assessor about what you think. You can say, well, I don't know how you got that value. The assessor may say, well, we've got you down as a 5-bedroom, 5-bath house. And you can say, well, no, I have a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. And then the assessor can determine how to correct that right there if they get new information. The board review, though, we want people to understand that that's a formal process. You must provide evidence. You have to demonstrate that the value is not plus or minus 10% of fair market value, and the burden of proof is on the resident. So, council, you're familiar with that process, being the representatives of board of review, but for the public, it's just good to look at your assessment, and if your assessment is $450,000, it may be an increase from the last time we did it in 2021. That would make sense given our market. You know, all the properties are going up. So I guess that's what I would point out to folks.
Open book is just a really good time. If you have any questions, it's a great time as an assessor just to educate. Right? So if you have any questions, again, why did mine go up this much? My neighbor went up this much. Just come and ask us. That's what we're here for.
And their contract with the city requires them to fulfill open book for as many questions, as many parcels, as many people have. So
we're here 2 full days in person, but we will have a dedicated open book email specific to River Falls that will be manned for probably a month. It will be manned up until Board of Review. We'll be answering emails, and I will be taking calls and answering emails straight from residents. So
Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, thanks, Dana. Appreciate the update. Okay, next we're going to close the council hearing and open up a public hearing on ordinance 2025-04, annexation of property at Powell Avenue near North Winter Street, and an application of a future land use classification of medium density residential and a zoning classification of R2, multiple family medium density residence district to the subject property. A unanimous petition for annexation was submitted by Rolling Hills Development LLC in collaboration with J.P. Brooks and Matt Heeb of Auth Consulting and Associates for an approximately 25.4 acre parcel located at Powell Avenue near North Winter Street in the town of Troy to be annexed into the city for the potential development of an 88-lot single-family subdivision. I'm sorry, an 86-lot single-family division. Is there anybody on with any questions about this? Yep.
Benjamin Fox, 2529 Powell, Powell. My main concern on this is that if you start looking at property along Powell Avenue, starting at Main Street, all the pedestrian crossings are on the north side. So as you pass Walgreens and the crossing at Main and Powell, the sidewalk is on the north side. On Powell Avenue Bridge, the extension on that is on the north side. When you start looking at connecting behind McDonald's on Oak Ridge, it's on the north side. So as you look at pedestrian crossing and everything else along Powell from Oak Ridge all the way out to Sunview, please look at that as a corridor and look at using the north side. And then on the south side, a lot of there's dips and things. It's shaded, it freezes a lot. And so that's important as you look at extending city services out to Powell or Man Valley on the north side to make sure that connection is good between that area and the city. With that, I thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else have anything?
My name is Lexi Larson. I'm at 675 Powell, and I'm wondering if there's going to be any kind of like an easement. Is that what it's called? Like where there's just like there's a tree line right now. And I just wanted to know if there was going to be any plan to like keep some of that, or if it's going to be right up next to where I'm at, because I'm right on the side, right on the edge of the field. Does that make sense? Or right next to the field. So I was just wondering if there was going to be any kind of option for us to even buy into part of that, just to kind of put a little bit of a barrier, because obviously I've got a 4-year-old that really likes the wildlife and everything else, which is going to be mostly gone for, I think. But just to have like a little bit of area, I guess, just so we're not right next to houses or anything, or a road, I guess. That's kind of my question.
Will we have anything there, Scott? Do we have?
Yeah, I think we can you can take questions during the public hearing, and then there's a representative of the developer here that can speak to anything
Okay.
that they like. And we also have development staff here, so if there's questions, I know we had a question in public comments about who will determine the pedestrian crossing up to spec. We can answer that question too.
Okay.
But if you, we can answer them as they
Yeah,
come,
that's fine,
or we
yeah.
can
Yep.
take the questions and then answer them.
Yep, we can answer them now.
So Harley, do you want to answer
Harley?
that question too from Mr. Hanson regarding who determines pedestrian crossing adequacy?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Regarding firstly the pedestrian crossing, that would be reviewed by our city engineer to spec. There are a number of considerations, including speed limit, lane size, visibility, et cetera, that go into those considerations. But I can assure you that the city engineer would review any plans to compliance with city code. Regarding the second question for any potential buffering, firstly, there would be a minimum mandatory setback on this project. So there would certainly be no zero lot setback on this. There would be a minimum typical setback for single family, I believe is 25 feet in R1 and R2. Further, I'm not entirely certain where all of those trees fall, but it may be the case that many of those trees fall upon the resident's property and those would not be affected. However, some trees may be affected during this process, but we do have a minimum subdivision ordinance trees per subdivision. Those typically go in the boulevard, but there are cases where, depending if it's something like a drainage easement, electric easement, et cetera, we can maintain some trees.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, does there anybody else have anything on this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I'll open up the council hearing if the council's got any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yep.
Question for city staff. What will there be any opportunity, or maybe you've already done the work, for speed limit determinations considered for the future on this project? And if so, how do you determine it?
Thank you. Mr. Councilmember, currently we are reviewing a number of streets within the city for speed limits, safety, enhanced crossings. Certainly that will be part of the discussion as we look at Powell Avenue as an entire corridor. We're going to consider things like stormwater and drainage, things like the speed limit. And certainly once we get more and more development on that north side and the south side, considerations regarding speed limit adjustments, if they're necessitated, will be evaluated by our city engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie.
Harley, you want to hold on for a second? So I just want to clarify, make sure we're not doing planner speak, but which you do a great job of. But just to clarify, we don't have a tree preservation ordinance. So there isn't a requirement as a part of this development that the developer needs to retain the trees that are on their property.
That is correct. We do not have a tree preservation ordinance. What we do have is an ordinance that requires a minimum number of trees in a subdivision per lineal feet. We do allow some clustering. Again, those are typically in the boulevard to create that boulevard aesthetic that River Falls is known for. Often we do see perimeter landscaping, but if the private development, these homes, these lots do abut directly on the rear of the existing lots, typically there would not be a landscape hedge there, but it would be up to each individual property owner to plant their own trees.
Yeah, and so we've seen, as is the case even in my neighborhood, there was a tree row. The tree row was on the farm field, not on the private properties abutting, and it was full of, frankly, it was box elder. There might have been one cherry tree or something in the whole row, but it provided a buffer and a wildlife screen, but that wasn't required to be retained, and it was removed as part of that development. And those choices are made by the developer to balance the demands that the city has, in particular for stormwater management. So there's often times when we're asking them to do perimeter shaping and things in their property to make sure that there is an impact beyond their property for stormwater. And sometimes that means a tree row or something that was put in for wind is not compatible with the new flow of stormwater that we're trying to maintain on the site. So I just be as transparent as possible that the city council has not enacted, or the plan commission has not enacted any ordinance that says that tree gets a ribbon around it and we save it. That's a decision that's made by the development group. And certainly city staff gets some, can contribute some things, and developers by and large, if there's trees of good quality, they like to keep those trees when they can, but I'm not familiar exactly with all of the tree out there. And I also want to point out on the speed limit, it's not the case that we just adjust the speed limit down because we want the road safer. So that doesn't work. The geometry of the road, the width of the road, the type of travel, how close houses or buildings are to the road has an impact on what speed people are likely to travel, and just arbitrarily reducing a speed limit and hoping that people go slower doesn't work. And so we haven't adopted as an engineering philosophy here that we're just going to say, okay, we've got new houses there, so lower all the speed limit. So they do quite an analysis to try to determine kind of what the average speed is likely to be traveled given what the street layout is, driveways and other things. And then you're trying to put that in a percentile or quartile that matches. Now, certainly we can do enforcement action, and that helps for the car that we pull over. It may help for 3 other cars that witness that, but the speed limits are going to be set based on the development. It's more likely that safety enhancement and changes in speed limit will come when there's any kind of reconstruction or redesign of a street. So then we're looking at things to try to help with that, like putting some curvature or other things. There may be roundabouts in the future, other things that'll provide that, but there isn't any plans with these developments that I'm aware of. We're not speaking about putting in big new intersections, roundabouts, street narrowings, or changes to that. So we'll have to look closely at that, and certainly that's a concern of staff, is how do you connect the neighbors to each other and to the amenities that we have plenty of in the city.
Mr. Simpson, when will we see that analysis? And does that include pedestrian crossing in that analysis or plan?
Yeah, when they do the site planning and the specific implementation plan, and that they're looking at the movement of cars, certainly, and then they're also looking at pedestrians. They're looking at amenities that would attract the pedestrians, so connections to other trails, getting people to DeSanctis Park, getting people to Collins Park in this case, are going to be important things to consider. And then also we have long-range planning, so we know that we're connecting people eventually out to the Man Valley area. We have a plan for the trail system along Radio Road that connects into the existing, so they look at all of that holistically. But one development doesn't trigger all of the future requirements for the entire area. It's a build up, and then things are done incrementally over time. And as you know, we have a strategy to try to get as much state and federal money for these enhancements as possible. So we continue to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I've got another question for Mr. Melhorn. Step up. It seems to me we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. We've got an annexation request in front of us. Could you maybe go through, I mean, we don't have a site plan, we don't have, and can you go through the process as to how all this happens and how the opportunities for feedback from the neighborhood and other citizens?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember. Typically, a process when land is not in the city is initiated through an annexation. Kind of a long process, starts with the Plan Commission, ultimately goes to this council. After annexation, depending on the type of development, there are a number of pathways that development can go down. In this particular case, because there are 3 or more lots being subdivided, a subdivision is indicated. through a platting process. That'll likely happen as either a preliminary plat and a final plat if there's phases, or just a final plat, as is allowed in the state of Wisconsin. At each of these steps, there are typically either hearings or public meetings that the public can come to. While this is happening, whether it's a platting process or otherwise, staff is reviewing for compliance with our various ordinances, engineering standards, planning standards, etc. If there is anything that needs to be addressed, it's typically addressed during that time from a code perspective. And if there's anything that cannot be addressed, it can then go through a planned unit development contemporaneous with the platting process. And at each of those stages, there is the opportunity for public comment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harley. Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, we want the consent agenda. First, we have acknowledgement of the following minutes. We have the bid board from 5:13. We have the library board from 5:05. We have the planning commission from 4:02. We have the historic preservation commission of 5:14. We have the housing authority from 4:09 and 5:14. We have the park and rec advisory board from 4:16. We have the utility advisory board from 4:21. Next one is a resolution approving loan from the housing reserve fund for the River Falls Housing Authority. Next one is a resolution approving the planned unit development specific implementation plan and developers agreement for the Sycamore 2 project. And the last thing is a resolution approving the wastewater treatment plant 2024 compliance maintenance annual report. And does anybody want to pull anything?
Mr. Mayor, I need to pull number 8.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull 7.
Okay. I'll take a motion on the rest.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move approval of consent agenda items 6A through G and 9.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's see. Mr. Carroll, you pulled number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think I just want to, for the sake of, I'll say educational, just a quick, I appreciate the memo that the city put together, but just maybe some restatements about what the River Falls Housing Authority is and maybe how that relates back to the city. Just the title River Falls makes it sound like a city entity. It is not. And I thought Mr. Simpson could just walk us through a couple kind of FAQs on the Housing Authority.
I'm going to have to brush up on my statutes here, but a housing authority is a statutory entity that's permitted by the state of Wisconsin to address housing in a geographically defined area. In our case, it's the River Falls Housing Authority. It is similar to a wholly owned subsidiary, but there's some specific legal separations between the city of River Falls and the Housing Authority. Those can be modified, but haven't been by the council or the community. So in this case, it operates as essentially an independent authority. City uses kind of our partner model where we're assisting them as best we can, just like we would other important partners in the community. But they hold the assets. They have a separate audit. They have separate kind of financial bottom line. Their employees are not employees of the city. They're employees of the housing authority. And so that's in a nutshell what it is it's a separate company in the community that provides housing to folks, primarily through housing and urban development and USDA rural development. There's not been much changes to housing, the HUD model, since the 70s. So essentially most of the housing authorities in the United States are kind of frozen in time because of no additional support from the federal government. So they really don't have the ability to expand their footprint too much. They've done some creative things, like Windmill Place is a kind of a creative tax credit related development, but even those are getting increasingly more difficult. So the Housing Authority Board had asked the city if they would consider using the Housing Reserve Fund that we have, which is to impact low to moderate income housing in the community, either for the retention of low to moderate income housing or creation of new. And so they had a specific project in mind at Windmill, which would be capital improvements for that building, which would keep the rents in good shape. They'll have to go up to pay for these because the people in those buildings support those buildings through their rent. So the mayor appoints the 5-member board. So there is some connection. Councilmember Bierstedt is on the board, and others of you have served at different times. They are on there for 5-year terms. And so they asked the city if we consider a loan from the Housing Reserve Fund, and staff has put forward a resolution that would approve a $238,000 loan to address windows and other capital improvements at Windmill Place. And then that would be a low interest loan. I believe that we've settled on about 2% interest for that loan with a 10-year amortization schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. With that clarity, I'm prepared to motion approval.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Morissette, you pulled number 8.
I pulled number 8 because I have a conflict of interest, so I need to abstain for the vote on this one.
And I'll move that we move forward with number 8.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any questions or comments on 8? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to administrator's report. Scott, if you got anything or anybody has any questions for Scott?
I don't have anything specific to report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Anybody have anything for Scott? Okay, move on. I got one good news. Earlier today, we signed a historic 20-year agreement with the River Falls Rural Fire Association to extend the city's fire services to the association's territory through the end of 2046. This includes the town of River Falls, town of Kinnikinnick, and portions of the town of Troy, Clifton, and Pleasant Valley. We're excited to continue our valued partnership with the Rural Fire Association for many years to come. Next, we have a couple announcements. First, Mr. Bjork will read us the Park and Rec proclamation.
Sure, I'd be happy to. This proclamation is for the designation of July as a Parks and Recreational Month. Whereas Park and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental and physical health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, providing space for proper sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth, adult sports, and environmental camps and clinics are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation provides service that enrich the lives of its citizens and helps make this community a desirable place to live, work, and visit. And whereas the City of River Falls Common Council and Parks and Recreation Advisory Board recognizes that the Parks and Recreation field is a diverse and comprehensive system that improves personal, social, environmental, and economic health. And whereas the City of River Falls supports the skilled work of Parks and Recreation professionals to strengthen community and promote opportunities for healthful living. And whereas the City of River Falls values the essential services that Parks and Recreational professionals and volunteers performs to provide the recreational and development health enrichment to our children, youth, and adults, and to ensure that our parks and rec spaces are clean, safe, inclusive, welcoming, and ready to use. Now, therefore, Dan Tolan, Mayor of the City of River Falls, do hereby proclaim that the month of July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month, and July 15th, 2025 as Park and Recreational Professional Day. That's it.
Thank you. And Mr. Downing has the National Pollinator Proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Bee City Chair, I want to first extend my thanks to the Mayor and the City Council here for supporting our local pollinators. Thank you very much. And with that, our National Pollinator Proclamation. Designation of June as National Pollinator Month and June 16th through the 22nd, 2025 as National Pollinator Week. whereas pollinators are essential partners in producing much of our food supply, and whereas pollinators provide significant environmental benefits that are necessary for maintaining healthy and diverse ecosystems in towns and cities, and whereas pollination plays a vital role for the trees and plants of our community, enhancing our quality of life and creating recreational and economic development opportunities, and whereas the City of River Falls manages parks, public landscaping, and other public lands that may include greenways and wildlife habitats, and whereas the City of River Falls shall recognize National Pollinator Month in June by raising awareness about the importance of pollinators and encourage action to support them, like planting pollinator-friendly gardens with native nectar-producing plants, and whereas the City of River Falls celebrated National Pollinator Week from June 16th to June 22nd by further educating the public about the vital role that bees, butterflies, and birds play in our ecosystem while promoting the protection of their habitats. Now therefore, be it resolved that Dan Toland, Mayor of the City of River Falls, do hereby proclaim June as National Pollinator Month and June 16th to 22nd, 2025 to be National Pollinator Week in the City of River Falls, Wisconsin. Be it further resolved that I urge all citizens of the City of River Falls as an affiliate of Bee City USA to become more aware of the importance of pollinators and recognize this observance. Given under our Mayor's hand and seal of City of River Falls this 24th day of June 2025. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Sean. Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
First and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Does anybody ever oppose that one?
Whereas. You talk that way at home too? Joni.
I wouldn't let him do that.